Hello, my lovelies. So this is my couch and this is where all the journaling magic happens. Now in today's video, I'll be showing you the different journaling techniques that I personally use for manifestation, for mental clarity, for processing my feelings and emotions, for self-growth. And I have a little bonus for you guys at the end, so make sure you stick around for that. I also have an older video on journaling that you should definitely go check out if you are just starting out with the process and if you want to get a deeper understanding of what it is all about, how it can help you, all of that jazz. Because let me tell you, it is an extremely powerful tool. Therapists, psychologists say that if you don't have access to a mental health professional, the next best thing is journaling. And knowing how to get started, I know it's confusing, knowing how to get started and doing it the right way can be really, really beneficial. And hopefully this video will help you with all of that. I do all of my journaling digitally now. Like on my iPad, I have different notebooks in the Good Notes app, which is my all-time favorite app. The reason for this is that doing it digitally allows me to keep track of all of my journals in one place and I don't have to bother with keeping a stack of notebooks. Doing this also helps me sync across different platforms, so if I want to access my journal from anywhere in the world, I'm able to do that. So with that, let's start with my first set of practices, which I like to call my mental clarity practices. And I do these most frequently because they help me understand myself better, they help me gain clarity on things that are confusing, they help me evolve mentally, and they also help me process my emotions, which is of course another segment that I have for you guys. But as you will see through the course of this video, these practices actually work in tandem together to help me achieve the goals that I want to achieve, which is why journaling is such a fluid practice. You don't have to just stick to one method. You can experiment, you can try different things till you find what floats your boat. The first thing I want to talk about in my mental clarity practice is my weekly reflections. This is something that I do every Sunday to Sunday. I sit down and reflect back on the week that was. So I take about 20 minutes out of my time and I sit down and I think back on the week that has gone by, and I always answer this 5 set of questions. And this basically allows me to look back, learn from what has happened, and also set intentions for the week that is coming forward. So 2 of my favorite questions to answer here are what energized me and what drained me of energy. So I can list down a couple of things during that week if that's what happened. If there's only one thing that felt energizing during the week, I write that down. But this actually allows me to look back and see what actions I took during the week, what is the work that I did during the week that was actually positively impacting my life. The second question I answer is what drained my energy? And this is often a list of things because I really want to focus on eliminating things that are energy draining over the course of time, right? For example, in this week, interacting with a certain person in my work life was extremely draining. Not doing my workouts regularly was extremely draining. So when I continue to do this and when I look back on it week after week, it just showcases a pattern usually, and that tells me what are the things that need eliminating from my life, what are the things that need adding in my life. The next question I answer is what is something I learned? Now this really helps me zero in on the most impactful moments from the week and train my brain to look for lessons in even the smallest interactions. Next, I list down a couple of things that I am proud of myself for doing during the week because it's very, very important to take time out to appreciate yourself and to celebrate your wins. Next, I write down 2 things that I want to let go of from the week before. These are things that I might have fixated on that were negatively impacting my life that I don't want to fixate on anymore because they're not serving any purpose, instead of just taking up space and energy in my brain. And finally, I write down my intentions for the next week to help energetically give my life a sense of direction during the next week and to also remind myself of what's important. The next thing that I like to do on a more regular basis during the week, throughout the week, is something that I call brain dumps. This is something that I do whenever some thought is weighing really heavy on my mind, or whenever I've had an intense discussion with someone and I want to remember the things that we discussed right now, I will quickly come down and do like a quick brain dump and just jot down the important pointers or whatever is going through my mind. If I don't have access to my iPad or my journal at that point in time, I will just record a voice memo on my phone, and when I come back home, I will quickly write it down. So often doing my brain dumps doesn't take more than like 10 minutes, and it's not something that I do every day. Well, because nobody has the time to sit and write down page of every single day. But whenever there's a thought that is weighing heavy on my mind, which is bothering me, maybe it's just something that I would like to remember in the future, I will just sit down and do a quick 10-minute brain dump. And then once I have that information on the piece of paper, I will follow it up with another set of questions, which I call the why method. So the questions I will ask in this set are: why is this bothering me? What I learned from it? Why did it catch my attention in the first place? How does it impact my life? How does it impact the people around me? And does it have bigger implications from just impacting my life alone? So these are things that actually really help me gain clarity on whether something is worth fixating over or not. If it's something that somebody said and I'm feeling bad about it in the moment, and I do this exercise, it just is a great reminder that, this is something that does not need to be taking up space in my head. And now that it's out on paper, it has also helped me realize how I can become better from the next interaction onwards. So to sum it up, the 3 things that I do as a part of my mental clarity practice are my weekly reflections, my brain dump exercise, and then something that I call the why method, where I keep on asking questions till I get to the root of the problem. Now let's move on to what I do when I need to process lingering feelings. Now, when I do my mental clarity exercises, like I mentioned before, it automatically does help me process a lot of the stuff that might be bothering me, that might, be weighing on my head. But the next set of 2 practices is something that I do when there is an emotion that I just can't let go of. The first one is my letters to the universe. You must have heard of people writing unsent letters, writing letters to people who've hurt them and then writing them and never sending them. So this is somewhat like this, but I address it out to the universe, mostly because I feel like writing to people doesn't always make sense. And connecting with a higher power is a lot more powerful, and it is also a lot more resolving because it allows you to find the answers by yourself a lot of the times. So whether a person is bothering me, whether a thing is bothering me, whether it's something to do with my work, anytime that I can't let go of a very heavy feeling or emotion, I will sit down and I will start with, Dear Universe, this is Adete, and this is something that's bothering me. And once I start writing, like once I do these 2-3 things, this is the actual thing that's bothering me, it just becomes a flow and I end up writing everything down on paper. Now, this is very similar to a brain dump, but it's basically like I am talking to the universe. I'm talking to somebody else. And in having that conversation, it actually helps me process what I'm feeling to a great extent. You know how when something is really bothering you and you talk to a friend and you're just able to mentally resolve that thing, this is somewhat like this. I haven't read up on the science behind it, but this is something that's been working for me for ages, like for years and years on end, and I've been doing this for so long. And I absolutely love this because it's like having a conversation with somebody that you can confide in who will never ever reveal your secrets to the outside world. It's a very comforting feeling. And the next thing I like to do to process my feelings, again with lingering, with long-lasting emotions, is something that I call a feeling fact sheet. Now in this, I try and take a very objective look at things so I can compartmentalize in my head whether something is really worth, spending my time and energy on or not. So these are the set of 4 questions that I often answer when I'm doing my feeling fact sheet, which is, number 1, what is the thing that happened? Objectively, if I look at it from a third-person perspective, what do I see has happened? Second thing is, how did it make me feel? What is the thing about that situation or that person that bothered me? The next is, do my feelings reflect the reality? The next is, why did it make me feel this way? The next question is, what would I do to comfort a friend if the same thing was happening to them? And finally, how is this good for me? So now these last 2 are actually my favorite questions in the feeling fact sheet. And this is something that I picked up from Struthless's video on journaling, which, by the way, if you have anxiety and if you deal with anxiety, that's a great video to check out. So make sure you go do that. So answering this question, how would I comfort a friend or a loved one in case this happened to them, actually puts me in a solution finding mode rather than being in a self-victimizing mode altogether. And that helps me break out of that feeling loop a lot quicker. And when I'm able to break out of that, I'm able to see the situation more objectively. And the last one, which is how is this a great thing for me, or how is this helping me grow, again helps me focus on the positive attributes of this instead of just going downwards in a spiral and just wallowing in that feeling of, doubt or hatred or whatever negative feeling I'm having. It helps me look at it from a fresh perspective, from a different perspective. And that's always a good thing to do, because again, it helps you break out of that loop and it helps you become more oriented towards lifting yourself up rather than just staying down in the depths of the negative emotion. So these are two practices that I do very, very regularly whenever I am feeling such emotions. Now we come to the next section, which is journaling that I do for self-growth. So there are two parts to this. One is my goal setting and intention setting practice, and that I do only on a yearly basis, usually towards the end of the year when I'm setting goals for the coming year. I already have a video on how I do this, so make sure you go check that out. I'm not sure if it's still on the feed, but if it's not, I'll make it public again. And I have a link to a Notion sheet in that, which is something that I use for my yearly goal setting purposes. So you can go download it, use it for yourself, all of that jazz. And I'm not getting into the depths of this because I have a whole video on it. So the second thing that I like to do, and this is something that I've started recently, is shadow work. Now, this is something that I do when I'm having difficulty accepting a part of myself, when I'm confused about why certain things are happening in my life or why I am doing certain things which are not characteristic of me. So whenever I need information, I need to process information about why I am the way that I am or what has led to me taking a particular set of actions, I do the shadow work practices. Now, shadow work is basically bringing to light your shadow self or your darker self that is not really a part of your conscious mind, but it still impacts you as an individual. Things that we might not be aware of, things that we might be ashamed of, that we don't let come to the light. And that is the part of yourself that you access through shadow work. Now, again, like I said, I'm very new to this, so I use prompts from the internet, from Pinterest. And I'm just going to make a list of all of my prompts and share those with you so you guys can use those and just answer those questions to get started, right? And now we come to the part I think that most of you were waiting for, which is my manifestation practices. Now, these are something that I do on a daily basis. Everything else is less frequent, might not be every day, might be every couple of days, but my manifestation practices are something that I do every single day. Now, here I just have 3 separate practices. The first one is practicing gratitude, writing down things that I'm grateful for every single day. I write down a list of 3 to 5 things. The next one is affirmations. And again, I write down a list of 3 to 5 affirmations. Usually there's a theme going on. So I'm fixated on, let's say, making more money this quarter. So a lot of my affirmations will be around making more money, being more abundant, having a more abundance mindset, and henceforth, if my relationships are what I'm focusing on in this particular area of my life, my affirmations will revolve around those. So this is something that I do very intuitively. I don't focus my mind on just writing affirmations about one thing. I sit down, I do a little bit of meditation to feel where I am coming from, what it is that I want my energy to be focused towards, and I write down my affirmations accordingly. And I write down a lot of I am and I have affirmations. So I am wealthy, I am loved, I am abundant, or I have an abundance mindset, I have an abundance of money flowing to me, I have an abundance of beautiful people in my life, things like that. So they're all I have and I am, to basically rewire my brain into thinking, into feeling that this is something that I currently have, that I exist in this energy. So whenever I am taking actions, I am taking it with this in mind, that I already have what I want. The universe has already given me what I want. And that is one of the key factors when it comes to bringing your affirmations to life, when it comes to manifesting the things that you want to manifest, is you already have to believe that you have it, that you are already in that vibrational space where you have those things that you are affirming. So, and the final step in my manifestation routine is my best case scenario journaling practice, where I actually sit down and imagine the best case scenario in regards to the goals that I want to achieve. So let's say I want to earn X amount of money, or I want to have, X factor as success in my career. I will imagine what that feels like and I will write it down. I will write a vision of what the best case scenario looks like. Once I've written that down, I will then go down and write about what is one step that I can take to get closer to that best case scenario today. Now, when I'm doing this every day, a lot of it looks very similar because at one point in time, I'm trying to work towards one or maybe two goals at a time, right? So I keep writing down that best case scenario for that goal and then just writing down the steps that I can take every single day to get closer to that best case scenario. And this does something to your mindset because it allows you to get out of your negative thinking bubble and to actually focus on what you can do, the action that you can take, but also gives you so much hope and desire to keep working towards your goal, which often can feel very tedious, can feel, like you're down in the dumps and not doing enough. So my manifestation routine writing usually just takes me about 10 minutes every morning, and I like to do this in the morning. But once I am done with it, one very important thing that I do is I sit down, I close my eyes, and I visualize every single affirmation that I've written down, and I visualize whatever I've written in my best case scenario. And the visualization is what actually helps me bring it to life. I think it plays a very, very important role in helping you achieve or manifest the desires or the goals that you really want to manifest. So those are the different techniques that I follow in my journaling routine on a regular basis. And as you would have probably seen, not everything is a daily practice except for my manifestation routine, which I take very, very seriously. Rest everything is more sporadic. It's more spur of the moment. My manifestation routine and my weekly reflections routine is something that I do regularly. So if you are finding it difficult to turn journaling into a habit, maybe keep this in mind. It's okay if you don't journal every day. If it is helping you, you will keep coming back to it. So the focus for you should be on what is the best practice that can actually help you process your emotions. Hopefully, with the techniques that I've discussed, you can try these out and see which one works for you. I have a PDF in the description that you can download and use the prompts and the questions to start your own journaling practice, and that will be extremely helpful because I know how helpful prompts and questions were for me when I initially started, and it helps just give my practice a direction. So go download it, use it for your advantage, and let me know what you think of this video. What else would you like me to cover when it comes to journaling? And don't forget to watch the last video on journaling if you're just starting out. And I will see you guys in the next one. Happy journaling and bye.